who are Ylva Ternström Blomqvist and Agnes Linnér, who will present together. Even though are in different research groups, they share the same theme of research. Ylva Thernström Blomqvist is a pediatric nurse and associate professor at Uppsala University, and Agnes Linnér is neonatologist and PhD at Karolinska Institutet. And they are to speak about infant and family-centered newborn care. Welcome.
So actually, we can start by telling you a bit about the outline of the talk. So we'll be talking about what is family-centered care and what is infant and family-centered care. What are the components? Of course, since Ylva and I love skin-to-skin contact, we'll say a few things about that. And then at the end, we'll give some examples. And really, we really do acknowledge that we can't take the model that we use in Karolinska Huddinge or from Uppsala and just take it from there and place it anywhere in the world, but still. So that's the outline. And then please, Johannes, the next one. Yeah, so I really like to start any talk about infant and family-centered care by showing this picture from Heide-Lise Als, and this is not a NIDCAP talk, but really why is infant and family-centered care so important? Well, it's because the newborn infant is so independent, like by definition independent, but provided the right environment, then the newborn infant is also so competent. So by just, as I said, providing the right environment, many newborn infants, preemies, term infants, they can adapt to extrauterine life without invasive support. And of course, the infant is our patient in newborn care, and the infant needs the mother first and foremost, and also the other parent. The parents need the family, the siblings, the NICU system. The NICU system is depending on the hospital system and, of course, the society, parental support systems and parental leave and such. So this is just to show how important the environment is for health after birth and also long-term health and disease. So next slide, please. This is just to emphasize that skin-to-skin contact or kangaroo mother care is one of the core components of family-centered care, and this is a compilation that I made for my thesis. And really, you're not supposed to read all these things, but what I wanted to highlight is that we don't need to discuss anymore whether we should do skin-to-skin contact or not. We should, really, and it's shown by lots of research. And then I can take the next slide just to say that most of the research that you saw the references for in the previous slide was done when we saw kangaroo mother care as something that was separate from the newborn care. So most of the research that's done on kangaroo mother care is done on kangaroo mother care that starts after the newborn care. And by the newborn care, I mean respiratory support, intravenous fluids, and so forth. It's a bit more recent that we've been started looking at kangaroo mother care or skin-to-skin contact integrated with the more medical newborn care. And those are pictures from Sweden, but just to show that one thing doesn't have to be separated from the other. I think we can find synergies by combining kangaroo mother care and more medical care. And I think my opinion is that we're only beginning to understand those synergies, how they work together. So we can take the next one. Yeah, and this is just to put some focus on myself for once. No, but Joy said that she was here like a year ago, and it was such a privilege to have her as the opponent for my thesis. So my main interest is really what I said in the previous slide, that how can we learn more about skin-to-skin contact initiated immediately after birth and integrated with the more medical care. And what I found and what I concluded in my thesis was that it may reduce mortality in some settings, and also it may help newborn infants during the transition from fetal life to newborn life. And then we can take the next slide. So, yeah, Mats showed us this picture of the WHO recommendations from last year. And I think it's really saying something that family involvement and support, you can see that there are actually 3 sections of this context, and family involvement and support is one of them. So it's a prioritized area, and then we can take the next slide. Just to say that even this section on preventive and promotive care is family-centered care. So kangaroo mother care, mother's own milk, and donor milk. So it's a really central thing in the WHO recommendations. Yeah? So next slide, please. Yeah, and these are just to show you some of the references about family and infant and family-centered care that the WHO recommendations are based on, and we can go to the next slide. And you've seen this picture before. This is from the Newborn Toolkit website. So see how family-centered care is the hub in the wheel, or the rose on the cake, or how you like it, but it's in the center of everything in newborn care. And really, what is family-centered care? The European Foundation for the Care of Newborn Infants, they call it infant and family-centered developmental care. And I think that's a really good description of why we want to have family-centered care, because it's developmentally supportive. The newborn infant is dependent on the environment, and that's how a healthy life is started. And the bullet points here, they tell me that we need lots of different professions, different people, different fields of research in order to get family-centered care in place. So first of all, what we talked about, skin-to-skin contact, physical contact, minimal or zero separation. Those are the bedside things, really. But also infrastructure, staff support. So how newborn units are constructed. When we plan a new hospital, how do we then design the NICUs? Of course, we can say that we like family-centered care, but if there's nowhere to sit for the mother, and if they can't eat or wash, if siblings are not welcome, then we can't do much, right? And also we need to see parents as partners in care. We need not only to just inform them on how their babies are, but we need to work together with them in a meaningful way. We need to communicate in a two-way way, ask them how their kids are, and involve them in decision-making. And by involving them in decision-making, I don't mean that they should be held responsible for medical decisions, but still many of the things that they do are nursing things and things that we can hear their opinion about. And then, of course, emotional support of parents, and to treat them with respect and dignity. And then the next slide, please. Yes, and I couldn't possibly talk about family-centered care without mentioning the concept of mother-newborn couplet care. Because as I see it, and what I see every day at work at Karolinska Huddinge, is that we work like so separately. We have the obstetric people working on the 5th floor, and then we have the pediatric people working on the 6th floor, and we work with the mother, and we work with the newborn, and we, on a daily basis, argue about whether the NICU people should come to the mother, or whether the obstetric people should come to the NICU. And it's the first thing that goes. Every summer when people go on holiday and there's a shortage, then the couplet care goes. So it's a really fragile thing, and I think we should, in the future, talk more about perinatal units, not obstetric and neonatal ones, but more have the same organization. Yeah. So I think that was the introduction, and then we'll move on to more of some practical examples from Uppsala and Stockholm. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to change places with me so that you can see the...
Next slide, please. So I don't see, yeah. Just a short brief, because we have a really good healthcare system in Sweden. We have a free healthcare system, and almost all births take place in hospitals. And we have a Swedish vaccination program that covers almost 97% of the population. Next slide. And we have also a fantastic social security system where all parents who have a child will receive 480 days, so they can be home with their children. And if the infant is in need of NICU care, both parents have the right to receive a temporary parental benefit, so they can be at the NICU with their infant. So they are, you can say that they are paid to be at the NICU 24/7. Next slide, please. So even that I'm a researcher, I'm mostly interested in and how can we implement the research into practice. And I think that what Sweden could add to this gap is that we can show that skin-to-skin care and parental participation and involvement in NICU care is absolutely possible. And it could be during intensive care, and it could be done in a safe way. And I'm so sorry because my English is a catastrophe, so I don't find the right words all the time. But I will show you a lot of photos so I can compensate for this. So this is from the maternity ward in Uppsala, and I think it's almost the same in
Yeah.
Karolinska too, because we at the maternity ward we take care of infants for about 34-35 weeks, and they can receive phototherapy. We cup feed the infant, never bottle feed the infants, because we want to promote breastfeeding, and the parents perform skin-to-skin care. Next slide, please. We also try to do the best that we can to work for zero separation with full-term, relatively healthy infants. And this is not a sick infant. You can see it's just a photo model. I don't know what. We just practice with it. But we try to resuscitate the infants, if it's possible, in skin-to-skin position. And we also try to, if the infant is just need of CPAP for some hours or so, to do it in the delivery room or at the operation
Obstetric theater.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes we succeed and sometimes we don't, and it's mainly because stuffing problems. Next slide, please. So, and we think what we do often you will become good at, and if you at your NICU, which it's often happening in Sweden, for example, you will be really, really good to put a lot of infants in incubators, and you will do that very great, and you think that is the normal thing. But if you just try to think in the opposite way, that if you're working very, very much for non-separation, to care for infants skin-to-skin, and involve the parents directly, and let them be there 24/7, and with the early start, that is what you will become good at, and that will be the normal, and you can do it in a safe way. So I don't just want to show you that here you have a father, a mother, and a big sister with an iPad, and twins receiving, I think one is receiving, they're both in CPAP. And you might think that I'm not selling iPads, and I'm not selling parental beds, but I think this is two really good things when it comes to family-centered care at our NICU, because siblings have something to do, and the parent could be there 24/7, and they feel like they are welcome and also sleep with their infants. Please, the next slide. Of course, we have a lot of hinders, and we see that in Sweden we call it Swedish fika. And sometimes you say that you can't have the fika together with your infant or during intensive care or something like that. Swedish fika is literally to take a cup of coffee and eat something sweet. And if you can do that together with your infant, a lot of parents will leave their infants and take the fika somewhere else. So in Uppsala, it's really important that you can fika with your infants. We don't have any baby clothes, because as soon as the infant will have baby clothes on, we see that the skin-to-skin care will almost be zero. We try to not have any baby beds or cots, not at the maternity ward or not at the NICU. But sometimes it goes up and down during the years. Sometimes all infants have baby beds at the maternity ward and sometimes nobody has. But that is a problem. Sometimes the staff attitudes can be a problem. And also we see that staff that want to have control of the situation absolutely can be a problem, because they think that it's always better to put an infant in an incubator, for example. And all the medical equipment that we have could also be a problem, because it could be a hinder, of course. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And also the facilitator it's almost the opposite, but that we have a perfectly fine parental leave. We have parental beds that help us a lot. We have something that we call a bed in bed, so the infants can sleep if it's not in skin-to-skin position and not receive the heat from an incubator. It could sleep together with the parents in the parental bed in a safe way. We have fantastically, perfectly fine nurses and physicians with good attitudes that make this happen. And we have a NICU design where the parents can be 24/7. Next slide, please. I don't know if you see this, but this is an infant intubated, care for skin to skin with the mother in the bed, and the father also sleeping here. So the mother have the father's feet in her face almost. But this is just how it could be look like in every day at our NICU. Next slide, please. Sometimes the infants are not, maybe they are really too sick, or they don't want to be cared for skin to skin, or the parents just need to take a rest. We want the parents to be there anyway. So even if they are not cared for skin to skin, we want the parents to be present. Next slide, please. We also try to do as much intervention as possible with the infant in skin-to-skin position. Inserting of IVs, take blood samples, for example, and next picture. We also intubate and extubate the infants in skin-to-skin position.
We don't. We think it's crazy, but
Yeah.
we're trying to learn.
I just want to make sure that I'm not lying, because Sofia, you're a neonatologist and working there too. Is this true? It's true. Thank you very much. We also try to do as much like ultrasound and things like that in skin to skin. Next slide, please. And we think it's really absolutely important to include the siblings in the infant's care, because if you're not allowed siblings to be at the NICU, the parents almost need to choose between the older children and the new one, and they will always choose the older one because they already are attached to them. So if you let the siblings be there, we think that this is a golden way to succeed. It's very important for us. Of course, we don't want them to be there if they have a vattkopper or something like that. What's the...
Varicella.
Varicella. Yeah, the next picture, please. And we try to make it possible to breastfeed as soon as possible, no matter if the infants are in CPAP or if they are nasally intubated. It's possible to be lying at the breast. Next picture, please. If the infant is really, really sick, for example, this is a picture of an infant receiving hypothermia treatment after birth asphyxia. They can't be skin to skin, but they still can be cared in the parent's arms or in the parental bed. So we have standardized this, so we always put up the infant's care space in the parental bed, so it should be easy to always care for the infant in the parent's arms, even that it's not possible to do it skin to skin. And if the infant is really, really sick with a lot of slangar, lines and things like that, maybe they couldn't be cared for skin to skin, stomach to stomach. They could be lying on their back and in the parent's arms. And here it's absolutely most important that we have a parental bed so you can raise it and the parent could be in a good position. Then the next picture, please.
Yeah, so just to come back to the question or the title of the seminar today, so how can Sweden contribute to global neonatal research, and how can Ylva and I, being researchers and clinicians, how can we contribute? And I think some of the things are, well, to take part in international collaborations, of course, try to work together with colleagues from other settings. In skin-to-skin contact, studies about that, my favorite, and also breastfeeding support and research about that, and family-centered care. And I think also that I think the key thing about myself being a neonatologist is that I would like to emphasize and show to the rest of the world that skin-to-skin contact and breastfeeding and family-centered care, it's a really important thing to us. We have machines and space and all these things, but still what matters most to me is skin-to-skin contact and family-centered care. And we can show that when we have people visiting, and we can talk about that when we visit places and so forth, because it is the most important thing in neonatal care.
Yeah.
And also, as Ylva showed, we can share our good examples. We can show how do we position them when they are on CPAP. Of course, our machines are usually a bit easier to use in skin-to-skin contact than what I've seen abroad. But we can show how we do it. How do we place the wires and line, and how do we furnish the rooms and so forth. Right.
And I think also that we can show that we can collaborate.
Yeah.
At least. It's very, very close. We are really close to each other.
Yeah.
So if we can start there today, maybe tomorrow.
I'm still a bit upset about the
Yes.
intubation in skin-to-skin.
Yes.
But okay. Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And as the story goes, we are still behind schedule. And maybe some of you are starting to craving Swedish fika now when they spoke about it. And there are 2 speakers left before we take the fika, so you know.